Commissioner Sherlock, anything for us from the city? All right, he's coming. You can come here. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Get well, Jim. Yeah. It's a microphone on an ice cream cone, right? So, one thing last night, we had a beer with some of our federal friends that were let go from the Helena National Forest. They lost about 40 employees yesterday or this week due to the layoffs. We want to let them know that we're thinking of them. We're also thinking of our snowplow drivers. Thank you very much for all they're doing. Thank you.
The most thankless job in America.
For those of you who are asking, my arm's doing okay from last week, but my ego's still hurt. My wife really enjoyed the videos because she went to MSU, so I just want to thank Waded Cruzado for being here last week. But we also had a discussion about CPACE last night at our city commission meeting. It's a tool that we can use to help out small businesses to save energy and save money. East Helena is well on their way for adopting CPACE as a tool for what they can use for economic development. And the city of Helena is just starting that conversation. I'm looking forward to having that. On Monday, just real quick, we would like to invite you to a city commission meeting. It's going to be Diane Carlson Evans Day. We're going to proclaim it that, as you're well aware. The Vietnam Women's Memorial founder, she served as a nurse in the Army Nurse Corps, and also to April 30th is the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. I could keep going on, but anyways, thank you very much. Have a good morning.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Phil, if you still don't mind, Jen, I'll swing to you. Jen, if you won't go back to Phil Drake there. Yep. Just a brief update about the Helena Independent Record.
Good morning. A couple weeks ago, I think it was a Monday, all of a sudden our computers weren't working and we really didn't know what was going on. And in the old days, I'm 65, in the old days, you were down for a couple hours and then you were back up and running again. And so for a couple days we didn't know what was going on. And then later in the week, we were informed by management that we had been the company-wide, 70-some papers, we had been the victims of a cyber attack. And so in the meantime, we've had, our pages are designed at a central desk somewhere in the Midwest, and they're shipped back to Helena and then printed here. And so we had a couple of ladies on site build papers, and that's why you're seeing the cryptic papers that you're seeing now. So we have never stopped producing news. We've been doing news and putting it on our website throughout. Actually, our paper was complimented by upper management for continuing to post fresh stories all the time. So we're told that by this Saturday we should be producing papers off-site once again. But in the meantime, they're still having trouble with the e-edition, so I believe they're going to be posting the Billings Gazette e-edition on-site until further notice. I've had several people email the paper, and I've tried to answer each and every one and explain to them what's going on, and people are rightfully upset, but I think once I give them an explanation, they seem to kind of appreciate the fact somebody got back to them. So thank you for sticking with us, those who have stuck with us. And so we hear you, and we're, like I said, we're continuing to produce fresh stories all the time on our website. It's just our print product seems to be crippled in the meantime.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drake, and thank you for being here and covering your hometown. And I know we all appreciate having daily news. And okay, we've got one more announcement coming in front, and then Haley will introduce the thespians here.
I've spoken to most of this place before several times. Most of you know I'm a Shriner. I'm not wearing my fancy little hat today, but that's okay. A friend of mine who's out of up above the Highline, who enjoys the nice brisk weather they're having, especially when you're in just east of Glacier Park today, and they're predicting 70-mile-an-hour winds. I'm glad I'm down here. Anyway, he's on the Shrine Board at Spokane Hospital, and he gave me the statistics for the Shrine Hospital in Spokane for the year of 2024. And what's really interesting is some of the numbers is that the year to date, they saw over 18,310 people at that hospital. That's really amazing, and that's one hospital out of 26 across the United States and in Mexico. So you can give you an idea of the number of children that the Shrine helps each year. It's absolutely amazing. Their hospital operating budget, this for Spokane, is $27.5 million. But what's really neat about that is that 80% of every dollar raised is direct patient care. So only 20% goes to the administration numbers, maintaining the hospital, paying the staff, etc. So you think about that, that's quite an undertaking. And of our 26 hospitals, 2 are devoted strictly to burns. And so children who happen to have that kind of a catastrophic injury, most of ours are orthopedic, and now we've evolved into sports medicine, helping kids that are injured by sports. But I learned something a couple of weeks ago that I did not know. I always thought that when a child turned 18, they aged out of our care. Well, I find out that I wasn't true on all that, because if a child is under our care and they start young, let's say 4 or 5 years age, I remember we had one little girl, she started right basically maybe 6 months after she was born, and she's still with us, but they will stay under our care until we can actually release them to be able to maybe hopefully have somewhat of a normal life, some of these kids. So we'll actually take care of those children until maybe they're 20 or 21 years of age. And what's really interesting about this is that if a parent or family is not able to pay for the care that we provide that child, we don't charge the parent. We will bill insurance, but once they don't have insurance, that's fine. We don't bill the parent. But that child is our main focus, and we take care of them. So if you ever have an opportunity to see a Shriner, go to a Shrine event, and see them guys in the little cars and them funny hats that I do once in a while, that's what we do. And we do it to help kids, and that's how it got started. It got started back when polio was affecting the United States. And a group of men, philanthropists, had all this money. They said, we got to start doing something more than just partying, because that's what they were doing. And so they put their money together, and that's where the Shriners Children's Hospitals came about. And because of children being affected by polio and families who could not afford to have their children get taken care of, the Shriners Hospitals were organized, and that's how they started, was to take care of those children whose families could not afford the care. And so that's where we got started. And I've had the privilege, there was a lady named Irene Roberts living here in Helena. She has since passed away. She was probably the oldest Shrine child when I interviewed her. She was 102 when I interviewed her, living at Touchmark. She didn't move into Touchmark until 2 months before her 102nd birthday. That's right. Kind of a neat lady. Very, very sharp lady. But she had polio as a child, and she was taken care of in the Minneapolis hospital. She lived in South Dakota, grew up, of course, also in part of southeastern Montana. And an amazing woman, and because of the hospital, she had a great life, and we're able to provide for her. But to interview her and learn about her experiences and how the family was taken care of is really interesting. So if you ever get a chance, when you see us in parades or whatever we're trying to do, and we're trying to help raise some funds for these hospitals, please consider that. But thank you very much.
We expect you to show up in the car once the snow's clear. Haley will introduce our first guest today.
Good morning, everyone. We have a distinct treat for you this morning. The Carroll College theater students are here. They are presenting, when is it open? When is it? The 20th? Friday! The Untitled Calamity It's going to be incredible. They're turning the entire Blackhawks Flex Theater into a saloon. Headwaters Tap House is going to be there serving drinks. There's going to be live music. All this like incredible just out there play about Calamity's life is going on. Just like splitting her character into two parts and addressing like what's real and what's the myth of like this Wild West heroine, who's also kind of a villain, an incredible person. So without further ado, I'm gonna let these guys do what they do, and I would just ask that the first couple rows of seating get pushed back a little bit so that they have some room. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for letting us come and present this short scene from Untitled Calamity Jane play. Thank you. I'm short. My name is Amber Barnes. I am the marketing at the college. Kim Schreier is the director, and she wanted to be here so bad, but she's super sick and didn't want to get all of you sick, so she stayed home, thankfully. So, like Haley said, this show is a little bit of myth, a little bit of legend, a little bit of truth about Calamity Jane, as told through two personas, Calamity and Jane. So this is just a quick scene for you to get an idea. We open tomorrow night. We run for 2 weeks. The live music is after the show on Fridays and Saturdays, both weekends. And Sundays will have music, but it won't be live. And you can hang out and play cards if you want. And Headwaters will be there before and after the show to serve. Part of the ticket also pays for your first drink. So that's exciting as well. So I'm going to let these lovely humans take over. Thank you.
Jack McCall! I remember how McCall shot Wild Bill Hickok. Who the heck do you think you are? I chased him down the streets of Denver, into the stage doors of a saloon. Boston staging dancing girls. Crossed the rooftop of a hotel. He stole a horse. So I stole one too. I cut him off on the other side of town, and I hopped on the back of his horse. But then he hopped off and took off running. No matter where he went, he couldn't shake me until finally he tripped all over himself trying to cut through a butcher shop. Ooh. And ended up cowering under me while I held a meat cleaver in the air. Hands up, McCall. Get up, you woman. It ain't fair. Bill deserves more time. March! Now, after I caught McCall, got revenge. When we returned to the fort, Captain Egan says to me, I name you Calamity Jane, the heroine of the plains. I've borne that name to the present day.
I'm welcome to ask any questions if you'd like.
We would love to answer questions.
Did you all help write the play, or is this something that
So we're billionaires, and we did not have a display. The actual playwright's name is Katie Frazier. She did an awesome job, and she's actually been with us the last couple rehearsals, and it's been so awesome to actually watch her, because she did this professionally with, real actors. And she got us ragamuffins, and so it's been so much fun to have her.
Might be fun just to hear your names and what brought you to Carroll.
Yeah, let's go down the line.
I'm Sophia Lampkin. I'm a freshman, and I came to Carroll mainly for the anthropology program, and I'm really happy to be here. I love the weather, actually.
My name is Lexi Larson. I'm a sophomore, Sophia's a freshman, and I'm kind of came here for the theater, for the weather. Montana's always had a special spot in my heart.
Hi, my name is Brooke McClenning. I'm from Billings, Montana. I was actually brought to Carroll for track, and then the theater group got a hold of me, and I went to the other side. So I'm a theater nerd now, and I'm majoring in theater. I'm a senior as well.
Hi, I'm Lori Sivit. I'm a freshman. I'm a double major in theater and biochem, so I just help out with the plays, and I'm in this one, so that's fun. Yeah.
I'm Tommy Durden. I am similar to Brooke in that I came to Carroll for the golf team, and then I was like, oh, this Blake thing looks cool. And so now we're here, yeah. I'm a freshman.
I'm Andrew Braylick. I'm a freshman from Great Falls, Montana. We're probably in Carroll, it's close to home, and I have a lot of family ties here. I'm a civil engineering major and a U.S. Marine Corps ROTC student.
I'm Winter Snow. I'm a freshman from San Diego, California, and I came to Carroll just to meet new people and have fun.
Somebody important knows this information, but not me.
Well, I'm giving you the important information. They'll give you flyers. The show opens tomorrow night at 7:30. House opens at 7. There are like bar top tables and then tables on the floor that are kind of part of the space. So if you want one of those, get there early. We are Fridays and Saturdays at 7:30 and Sundays at 2:30 for this weekend and next weekend.
You can get your tickets online too at carrollcollegetheater.com. .edu.
Or you can go
You
to...
can choose your troop.
Yeah, also these flyers have a QR code. Go ahead, have fun. Go amongst the people. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, in just a minute here, we'll have a panel on air quality. We've got 3 guests. I think we'll start with Air Quality Chief Wilkins for about 5 or so minutes, then we'll go through everyone and then we'll have questions.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Yeah. My name is Bo Wilkins. I'm the Air Quality Bureau Chief at the Department of Environmental Quality, based here out of Helena. And I appreciate the invitation to be here today. It's the first time I've attended the event, and I really won't relax. So I really appreciate it. First, I'll start a little bit off about what we do at the State Air Quality Program. We basically consist of 4 primary groups. We have research and monitoring, which we'll go in a little more detail today. So this is our monitoring network across the state that we maintain and manage. And if you weren't aware, Montana is a really big state. So this is a significant lift for us. We have our permitting group, and this is where we issue permits to regulated facilities, so industrial sources, primarily. Here in Helena, we've got ash grove cement, we've got sand and gravel pits, out in the valley, and a few others. And we have our field services section that there are boots on the ground, and they get outside and they're the ones inspecting all these facilities. We have over 1,100 oil and gas facilities out in eastern Montana. We have over 360 permitted stationary sources, and we have 6 people that go all across the state and inspect these and make sure that they're complying with all of the appropriate regulations. And then we have our planning group, which deals with new regulations that come down either from the federal government or rules that we need to write enacted by our local legislature here. So that's kind of what we cover. But what I want to talk about today, though, is more on our monitoring side of things and things that really impact the public here in Montana. And I don't think I need to tell any of you that the biggest source of air pollution in our state is wildfire smoke. So over the last few years, we've really had a push to be responsive to that. Wildfire smoke is the single biggest source of pollution in the state of Montana, and it doesn't just come from Montana, right? It comes from Canada, California, Washington, Idaho, anywhere west of us, north of us. And it gets all the way across the state. I have in-laws in Florida, and they gave me a call when they got smoked not last summer, the summer before that. We also have prescribed fire, right? I think we've seen more of that. And that's a mixed bag, right? Because we utilize prescribed fire to manage our forests, and it's one of the most effective tools in managing our forests. So I work closely with our federal land managers and state ones, so DNRC, Forest Service, Park Service, and we do regulate prescribed fire to make sure that when we are burning our forests for management purposes to hopefully reduce severe wildfire in the future, that we are making sure that we're burning where smoke impacts are going to be minimized. The weather, if you're watching the TV, the weatherman's not always right, and sometimes we don't quite get it right. The front doesn't come in quite as fast as we thought, but we really are putting a lot of effort into increased prescribed burning and making sure that it has minimal impacts on communities when we do this, especially as we burn close to town, and we've been doing a lot of that lately. And then the last form of smoke that I like to touch on is wood stove smoke. And that, we experienced that here in Helena, and particularly in other parts of the state, Libby, Montana, other areas where we get a lot of inversions, Missoula. Wood stoves during the winter, when you have these times of inversions, can be the biggest source of air pollution. It usually is. And you can see at the county levels, they'll put out wood stove ban or a pause to use that, because that really does cause significant air quality impacts during the winter months. It's also a form of heat for a lot of people. So that's a tricky one as we try to move forward and address the wood stove smoke issues. So in response to all this, what we've been doing at the agency is really working to expand our air quality monitoring network. And we've got monitors, we have 26 official regulatory monitors across the entire state, and those are quite expensive. They run around $25,000 for a site that we maintain and we visit every month and perform a lot of high quality data checks, monitoring checks on that, calibrations. But that's not good enough for the public of Montana. 26 monitors, it's a really big state. That can be a lot of area between the closest monitor. So what we've been trying to do is utilize low-cost sensors, and that technology has really exploded in the recent years. So we, through a federal grant, purchased 200 purple air sensors, and we are trying to get those all implemented across the entire state. We're doing this through our Purple Air in Schools program. So our goal is to get every high school in the state of Montana a purple air sensor. We've also partnered with the University of Montana, where the university is pairing an indoor sensor with our outdoor one, so that we can measure indoor and outdoor quality and see what's really happening, where are safe indoor spaces during these smoke events. And if it's an old building, there's a good chance that the indoor air quality is just as bad as the outdoor. So with the university, we are, in the next year or so, we're going to come out with a lot of really good data that's going to help protect our health and enable those community leaders to make decisions that are healthy for communities. And I think, so that's really exciting. The other great thing about that program is that we have science teachers. We usually pair with a science teacher there. My wife's an elementary school principal here in town, actually right across the street here. And we utilize this as a learning tool too. So all these schools have access to all air quality data. And particularly at the high school level, we're getting a lot of really cool studies and science, and they're getting to utilize this real data for their own learning and high school research, which is really exciting. I can talk for days and hours about air quality, but I want to hit on the things that are important to this group and that you're interested in. And so I'll be around for questions, but maybe I'll leave it here and let the others talk. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, one question, and then we'll cover next. Our other two guys can come up.
Yeah, the question I had, we had the critical fires in LA. And what kind of things were up in the air that people were exposed to, not only in LA, but downwind from LA, and how was that being monitored? I know what happens here in Montana, but what was going on there because of all the building materials, et cetera, and what was being done down there?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So not all smoke is created equal. And when a forest burns, that's the smoke that gets put up in the air is a lot different than if a neighborhood burns, like in California. So there was a lot of structures that burned on the LA fire. And that smoke, just in general, I'm speaking broadly, is probably significantly more harmful. It includes a lot more toxics, air toxics, from manufactured products that you're going to find in homes. So on the monitoring side, monitoring for those air toxics is very specific. You don't have one monitor that picks up all of this stuff. And it's also very expensive. So when it comes to specific monitoring like that, we usually partner with our federal partners at the EPA. And they have a cache of monitoring resources that they can deploy in kind of some of these emergency situations. I'm not familiar with the specific monitoring that may have taken place in the LA fires that just happened. I would assume that some sort of effort like that took place. But really, this is where we're expanding out in the world of monitoring right now, is into this, what else is in there? The primary pollutant we monitor is particulate matter. It's called PM 2.5. It's very small, and that's the pollution. It's so small that it can get deep into your lungs and even into the bloodstream and causes significant health effects. So when we're talking about smoke, that's really what we're monitoring, is that we monitor a slew of other things, but it's very resource intensive and challenging to monitor for specific toxins. You usually can't just go and take a sample and monitor for a slew of them. But I expect a push, I've seen it in the western states, and we are really fortunate here in Montana that we have a great institute in Missoula, the Fire Science Laboratory, and they do a lot of these research studies into what's actually in this area, beyond just the particulate matter pollution, what's in some of these worst fires. And the one where a ton of buildings get burned, like that happened in California, is a prime example of that. Not all smoke is created equal. That's a great question.
Thank you. We'll hold our applause for the end. Mary Anderson with the Department of Health and Human Services. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I'm really excited that Bo went first because he covered a lot of my materials, so that helps. I put together a PowerPoint for another webinar that we just completed, and so you're going to see some of those slides come up. As we're going, if you have questions, please feel free to ask, or we can wait until the end with the panel. So as they said, I am Mary Anderson, and my job, I'm the Wildfire Smoke Coordinator for Montana DPHHS. This position, go ahead, next slide, was just created last June as a part of a grant that DPHHS, I'm in asthma control, that we received for the Clean Air Recognition Program. So it's a 3-year grant, and the plan with the grant is at the end of that, we will have some materials created for our emergency managers, for our schools, and for clean air centers across the state to be able to put in place clean air. As Bo was saying, what we're finding is that indoor air oftentimes is as toxic as outdoor air within 24 hours of a really heavy smoke event. So we really need to start thinking about how are we going to get our indoor air clean, especially with the number of vulnerable populations we have in Montana. So there was 3 parts to this grant. These are 3 objectives, where number 1 was just wildfire smoke messaging, letting people know more about the dangers of wildfire smoke and what they can do to help themselves and their communities. The second part is the technical training. So as we were talking about, the indoor air is mitigated a lot through your HVAC system. So ASHRAE, who's in charge of HVAC mechanical systems, they do a lot of the regulations, has just come out with new guidelines. And so my job is to create 2 trainings a year, free trainings for schools, for community buildings, for HVAC contractors who are building new buildings, about what they can be doing to mitigate that indoor air. Even we're finding now with fresh air intakes in new buildings, that's allowing that smoke particle in, and so we'll be talking more about that. And then the last thing is this pilot program. So after 3 years, we'll have 18 clean air centers through, you can see the area right there. It's mostly northwestern Montana, which is where all of that smoke is coming down from Canada. All the smoke is getting caught, especially from the western states. But it's also areas where, like Helena, there's valleys where that smoke gets trapped. And so we're starting our clean air centers in those areas. And then these pilot programs, we'll figure out what works, and we'll be able to spread that out. We're actually, Red Cross and I just started a partner. They're going to work with their shelters, and we're going to see if we can get this spread out more. But these are the areas that we're focusing on. Next slide. So I wanted to start a little bit with wildfire smoke and the health impacts, just so everybody is on the same foundation. So most of us know how annoying wildfire smoke has become, especially in Helena last summer or within the last few summers. So we know that we are coughing more, we have trouble breathing, especially if we already have lung problems. Change in function, we see this a lot with kids. So the air quality in schools, we know that if they're testing in the afternoon, they're not going to do as well as they did in the morning because of the brain fog that happens with air quality. Loss of appetite a lot of times, and then just achy. You know, you get the headache and the sore throat during a wildfire smoke event. But as Bo was saying, what we're finding now is it's irritating, but it's also a lot more toxic than regular pollution. I'm hoping that are most of you familiar with the activity guidelines? Raise your hands if you've seen the activity guidelines, if you know what they are. Some of you, okay. So the EPA, and these are DEQ's activity guidelines, but they go through, they look at the air quality, which you can get on Today's Air, Bo's site, or airnow.gov, will tell you what the air quality is, the air quality index is in the, and there's numbers. And so if you follow those numbers, you can see 0 to 50 is green, that means regular activities are fine. Goes up to moderate. Sensitive pollutions need to be careful. Unhealthy is anything over 150. And I'll tell you, I'm seeing a lot of people here that I know from my school days when I was an educator. All I cared about when I was in education was that the air quality was below 150, because that meant there was outdoor recess. So, yeah, it's September, first week of school, and we've got 500 kids inside because they can't go outside. And I worked in the valley, I was at Rossiter, so there were a lot of times Hawthorne would have outdoor recess and Rossiter would have indoor recess because of that inversion that we talked about. So I didn't know anything else beyond that. In fact, I used to get, and I was a school counselor, And I would get so irritated with the kids who said, well, I have asthma, I can't go outside because it's above 100. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? You know, and just didn't understand, because what we found out was we just got the numbers. We didn't know what any of the numbers meant. Let's go ahead, next slide. Really, this came to a head for Montana with the Rice Ridge Fire in Seeley Lake in 2017. Do you guys remember that? Okay. So that year, there was 49 days of air quality that was, the average was 220 micrograms per, I'm going to say this wrong. So the air quality index was 220, which was way above 150, right? That was the average. What that did is it gave people at the University of Montana a chance to really understand what happens with wildfire smoke. So they were able to look at this population, and they took about, I think, 68 people who were otherwise healthy, were healthy before the fire started, who lived in Seeley Lake throughout that time. And they said, we're gonna look at what your lung capacity is now that the wildfire has passed. So they looked in 2017, saw that there was obviously effects. Their prediction was that every year they would get a little bit better. What they found, and I know this graph is not very clear this far away, but what they found was actually lung capacity continued to diminish for the next 2 years. So they saw, so these were people that were healthy to begin with, went through 49 days of wildfire smoke, and that exposure caused some lung capacity issues. Now what happened was COVID happened in 2021. So that research was not able to continue, but you can see those dips. And that's really what made Montanans start to pay attention. You know, you can think about if you have kids in the system or grandkids. Now, if air quality is bad, those kids are working out inside. They're not going outside. That was not the case in 1986 when I was in school. So, so we're seeing that people are learning more. Go ahead. I talked before a little bit about those sensitive populations and how I used to get so mad at those kids who were between 100 and 150 and said they had to stay inside. This is why. This graphic shows that people with lung disease and heart disease and diabetes, they're starting to see emergency room visits, need for rescue inhalers, severe effects, even when the air quality is much lower. The air quality index is between 100 and 150 and sometimes even lower. They're seeing those people in the emergency room. So what we're finding is that that is a bigger number. Other things wildfire smoke has become linked to, lower birth weight babies. So women who are exposed, it's hard on pregnant women. Lifetime risk of respiratory and heart disease, cancer, and then right now they're finding, the last year they've been doing a lot of research around dementia and PM 2.5. Morbidity, Montana has the highest rate of deaths because of wildfire smoke. And then our vulnerable populations, the ones I'm working with, low-income individuals who maybe can't afford some of the mitigation, persons with chronic lung or heart disease, children. So children is interesting. We really focus on 0 to 5, okay? They're taking more breaths than the rest of us every day. They're running around. They're just, their lungs aren't as developed, so they have to take more breaths. And they're more likely to be outside. But what the physicians, especially in Montana, have said is they want that vulnerable population to be 0 to 18. And yes, we focus 0 to 5, but think of all the illnesses that have not been diagnosed in a 12-year-old. And so what they're saying is we don't know what's going on with those kids, so we need to keep them in that vulnerable population. So they do say 0 to 5 is where we focus, 0 to 18 is where we still pay attention. Bo talked about the size of the wildfire smoke particle. And you can't read this, but that big line that looks like a horn is actually a hair follicle. So that's the size of a hair follicle. The blue little bead is a dust particle. The red is the PM 2.5. That's wildfire smoke. So it's a quarter the size of a dust particle. And so the reason that becomes harder is the dust particle will get caught in your nose or get caught in your throat. You know, when you breathe in, it's not gonna be pleasant, but it's not gonna be able to get into your lungs. And so what happens with wildfire smoke particles when they're in high concentrations is our lungs lose the ability to filter those out. So if the concentration's low enough, our body's really resilient. It will filter that out and get it out of your system. When those concentrations are higher, like what we're looking with the activity guidelines, they get into the bloodstream. And so that's where we're looking at those activity guidelines. Bo talked about the different kinds of smoke. Chris Migliaccio is a researcher over at U of M, and he is finding that the further wildfire smoke travels, the more toxic it is, because it gets into the air and oxidizes and new pollutions are forming. So we think about that like, oh gosh, if it's closer. Well, what they're finding now is that they're more concerned about that smoke that's traveling a long way. And then we've talked about the concern with indoor air. Ways to protect yourself indoors. This is really what my focus is, and it's important, and I see that my graphics are off, but the first thing is we ask people to buy a HEPA cleaner. Have a HEPA air filter in your home, and use it when you have it go into the rooms. Even in a brand new house, they are finding that indoor air is definitely affected by whatever is going on outdoors. And so we really do rely on indoor air filters. I have a son who plays football at Montana Tech, and so he's outside all day during that smoke. And we have a cleaner in his room. I just leave it in his bedroom and I say, you turn it on every single night, because that's gonna at least help get those particles out. But we have one in our home. We use wood fire smoke, and we have one right next to our fireplace. It really does make a difference. Now I'm gonna make a plug for schools here, because I think that this is important, and if we can start working on this, we should be. Schools were all given HEPA air cleaners in 2021 during COVID. And we were told during COVID, run them during COVID, it's gonna keep disease down. Well, what's happened is they were given 3 years of filters, and filters are expensive. So now a lot of the schools have these cleaners and know they should be filtering the air, but there's not money for that. So I'm working with parent councils right now to try to create a fund. To me, it's like soap. You know, not just for diseases, but for wildfire smoke, we need to be running those cleaners in the classroom. Other thing, closing your doors and windows. In a heat event, you can open those doors and windows at night, but having your doors and windows closed is gonna make a difference. Replacing your filters in the summer. If you have air conditioning, change that filter out for a MERV 13 or higher, just for those months. MERV 13, what that does, it's just, the filters are more, they're more able to filter out some of those particles that are going to seep through a MERV 8. And finally, just recirculating the air in your car. Instead of fresh air intake, recirculating that air. Go ahead. Bo talked about just the air monitoring, and Montana DEQ if you go to Montana Today's Air, they have monitors and can show you the air effects. Now, the reason I brought this slide up, besides to highlight what Montana Today's Air will give you, they'll give you a smoke forecast as well. But if you look to the right, you can see those squiggly lines. This was just yesterday. That's a 48-hour air quality trend. And you can see this is the same in the summer. There's times the air quality is better. So if you're somebody who, like, I have to get outside for my walk, I need to walk my dog, or if you have family members who are like that, have them watch that today's air, or I have to open my windows because I don't have air conditioning. They can watch those trends and see when it's safer to open their windows. And we're really talking about that when there's a smoke and a heat event. Open your windows at night because usually the air is better. I gave this talk to wildfire fighters and I scared the heck out of them. Like they left going, oh my gosh, I might as well just start writing my will right now. So these are solutions that I've given to people who have to work outdoors. This is what we're working with MHSA for athletes. Even if they're working out indoors, what we're asking them to do is mitigate those effects that maybe they can't control with whatever activity they're doing. The first is to stay hydrated. You just want your blood as hydrated as you can, and wildfire smoke dehydrates you. Prioritizing sleep. With any inflammation, we know that sleep is where you recover. You need to think of wildfire smoke like inflammation of your lungs and your heart and your esophagus. And the way you're going to recover is to get that sleep. So you need to make sure that during a wildfire smoke event, you're getting more sleep. Eating antioxidant-rich foods, kale, dark chocolate, berries, and a lot of fruit, avocados. Eating foods that's going to help with that anti-inflammatory, just like an athlete would do to recover from an injury. And then finally, using that HEPA filter. Oh yeah, okay. Winter inversions has already been talked about. Go ahead. And I just want to talk about some of the resources that we've provided. These are all on our website. There's a Clean Air Center resource guide. If you're interested in putting together a clean air center for your community, this has all of the sites in there. There's a toolkit that's mostly for emergency managers and health departments, and then we have one for schools. And in those toolkits, we have social media and press releases. There are graphics, so if you have a business and just want to grab a graphic and a post, you can do that about wildfire smoke. There's informational flyers and checklists. Go ahead and click it again. Checklists for how to keep your indoor air clean. You can see those are pictures because that's going to be translated to different languages. On the right, you can see our air quality guidelines in Spanish. And then there's tips for indoor air or outdoor workers.
Okay. Jay Plant with Lewis and Clark County Public Health. Please join us.
Hello, I'm Jay Plant, Lewis and Clark Public Health. I'm here with co-worker Adam Mays. We are the kind of local county level air quality monitoring people. We work with DPHHS, DEQ. Right now we are mainly focused with our winter air quality season. We do more of the regulations in the county. So we're contracted with DEQ to basically enforce wood stove, any solid fuel burning device. Used to be the old stacks and incinerators, which we don't see much anymore. But so any solid fuel burning device would fall into county on-site, or excuse me, thinking wastewater, county outdoor air pollution regulations, which covers primarily from the North Hills to the South Hills, Spokane Bench, out kind of the Scratch Gravels is our air pollution control district. And so we look at basically today's air site,
We look at the PM 2.5 concentrations, what they're doing. We look at a 24-hour air quality forecast. We work closely with DEQ, their meteorologists, to see what the air quality is going to do. We look at, okay, we have pore dispersion for the next 2 days, 3 days, and then we kind of make the call on our regulations. We go off of what's called a good, watch, and core, which kind of is a little different than what you guys have probably seen on the AQI, or the Air Quality Index site, where you have unhealthy, moderate, unhealthy for sensitive groups, all those different readings, which are more of a health effects category. Ours is more of a burning category where if we're good, things are good, our PM 2.5 levels are good, we have good dispersion in the forecast. If we go to a watch, we're looking at pore dispersion, in the near future, and we know that the levels of PM 2.5 are creeping up. So we're basically asking residents to voluntarily eliminate wood stove burning and car idling, which is also another big issue, and then also use an alternative heat source. Now, some people don't have that option, which we do have the option for exemptions and variances to our regulations, which we'll work those individuals individually. Once those levels creep up to a point where we're going to exceed what's called the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, we will call a pour. And when we go to a pour, basically you say no burning whatsoever. Okay? Now we do allow burning if you have an EPA certified stove that meets certain, basically we call micrograms per meter cubed levels that say, okay, yes, you can burn that stove as long as the emission rate coming out of your chimney is less than 20% opacity. So basically, if you go out and look at your stove, your chimney, and you can see wood smoke coming out of it, you're probably in exceedance of that opacity level. So those are things we do work with individuals to burn. But we focus this time right now on that, so that obviously it's going to help the overall air quality index. Summertime, we do a lot of educational things with the wildfire smoke in connection with DEQ, Forest Service, DPHHS. So the prescribed burning's going on. We can get information out, let people know what's going on. When it's hopefully coming, we can do that. So just kind of a brief overview of what we do. But I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
Any questions? Yeah, you want to introduce your associate?
Yeah, Adam Mays. Adam's fairly new with us. He's been with us almost a year now. So he also works directly with myself in the agriculture program. So
yeah. I'll start. How do you guys all work together?
How do we work together? We work, like Mary, very involved in the actual individual health. Of course, DEQ, all the regulatory things that we do, we're working with them on that. So today's air site, something we're on basically 8 hours a day. We have that on. We're looking at it. We're looking at the forecast come from the National Weather Service, from the DEQ meteorologists, so on and so forth. So hopefully we can let the residents know what's going on and make informed decisions.
Questions from the hometown group here? All right, go ahead. Oh, Jen, right. What do we do?
That's pretty good comments on wood smoke, but there's a lot of stuff out there that are a lot worse than that. And air quality, they do lead cleanup in East Helena, and it wasn't from the Sarco, it was from people sitting and letting their cars idle. And all that lead got into the ground from that. They took formaldehyde out of your plywood so it wouldn't kill you, and out of your insulation and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff out there. One that bothers me more than a lot of stuff is diesel smoke. They've done surveys in how fast a glacier will melt because of the soot that comes out of that. I had a neighbor that had an oil burning stove. And if the wind was just right, that soot that come down, you couldn't blow it off. It stuck. It was full of oil. And I know how that can go, because I had a contest right over here across the street with the kids at that were taking the auto safety courses and stuff like that. And they thought the greatest thing about exhaust contest was how much coal you could blow. And they would put out so much diesel smoke you couldn't see where they were coming from. But my power wagon with this 4-inch side pipes on it would put 8 feet of flames out. So that was much more impressive than that smoke. But there's so much stuff out there that has nothing to do with wood smoke that is much more detrimental to us. And there should be a lot more concerns about that stuff.
No, absolutely. Diesel is, there are a lot of different pollutants out here, and I don't want to minimize any other ones that are out there. Vehicles are regulated by the federal government on what standards they need to meet. It's not a program that we implement here in the state. I always love to point this out because it's a rarely used statute that Montana has, but it's actually illegal to modify any exhaust in the state of Montana. So anytime you see a truck rolling coal and blowing that out, they've done an illegal tamper. It's not something that we enforce particularly well in the state, but I always like to point that out when I get the opportunity. But there is a myriad of different regulations that we have and we implement that regulate what we can to a much lower concentration and level than wildfire smoke. We obviously can't do that. And again, probably not the time or place to get into, but I'm happy if you have any questions or stuff to talk to you about how we regulate different things. Low concentration of formaldehyde, that was a big issue a couple decades ago, and we really brought that down. But one thing I will say just broadly is the Clean Air Act did a really good job, and we have brought pollution levels since the 70s down by most criteria pollutants by between 90 and 75%, which is really a success story that I also like to tout. Not to say that there isn't much more work to be done. There is for all the health reasons that we've talked about. But I mean, that's why I do what I do, is because I think it is effective and does good work. And there's a lot of different information out there.
Next questions? Sorry, but out of order.
Sorry. So curious from the three of you, federal funding's kind of become a hot topic in the last 30 days for some reason. We had warnings, but now we have discussions. How much federal funding are each of you at risk of losing?
Yeah, so our air quality program in the state is mostly funded through fees that we collect on industrial sources. Our federal funding is only about 6%, but it is, and most of those funds go to maintaining our monitors and our monitoring network. So that's how it plays in for our air quality program.
My EPA grant, I always joke that I got my job because I worked in education first, and so I'm used to doing a lot with no money. So we were actually, our grant was not very much, and we got all that money up front. So all of our projects are going through. It's hurting me with, I partner a lot with the NRC and the Forest Service. And so some of my partners are not able to do the work that they were doing, but we're going to keep going with our clean air centers and keep going with the work that we're doing.
Yeah, at the county level, we would be directly tied with DEQ, so same situation. Other than there are certain grants that we would maybe apply for that might go away.
And one more quick question there.
So I wanted to say that I could personally vouch for the HEPA filters, because in 2017, when we had the big fires, I bought a personal air quality monitor for inside the house, which you can get for like $50 to $80. And turning on the filter, you could just literally watch the numbers going down in real time. So definitely get them. Also, clean your house, because when the air gets in, it settles, and then it can be redisturbed and circulated. So after a big fire, do that. And then my question is, what's the mechanism for reporting when there's no burn days? Because I know at least one has happened this year, but I ran across that announcement kind of by random. So I don't know how that information is supposed to get out.
Good question. At the county level, we have our website, which we do post that information on. We do have a hotline, and I can get you this information if you like it, but that's been a challenge for us, is how do you know, a lot of your longtime wood stove operators know how to access it, but we have an email list we send out daily notifications to, or as conditions change, so people know we're a good watch report. We also use that hotline in that email list during wildfire events for reporting. But the best point or thing now would be to go to our website, Lewis and Clark County, and go to environmental health, our air quality program, and you can see that. And we also do have a mobile app which you can download to your phone, which would report, basically show you most of what today's air is showing you, the daily and hourly PM2.5 concentrations, our status, good watch report, where we're at. So, but when we're done, if you want to, I can get you the information.
Yeah, for me personally, I have some of those apps, but it's like you kind of need a broadcast mechanism if you want to tell people not to burn. And I don't know if that's we've tried to do that.
I'd say this is something we're currently talking about. We've known that this is an issue. We need to get the word out. And it's not just Lewis and Clark. This is on the state level. We're actually working with a new prescribed fire group that DNRC runs to try to get this information out. Because I agree, that's an issue. People need to know that there's something going on. That's something we're working on over the next year.
So really quickly, if you, airnow.gov has widgets, and if you have those, the app that shows you, if you have a billboard, there's lots of businesses in here. If you show the time and the weather, you can show air quality. There's widgets where you can do that. So as you're talking about how do we get the word out, encourage your businesses to get that airnow.gov widget where they can just show air quality for that area.
Thank you, and we'll get this in the next hometown email up on the website. And we do have a real quick special presentation. So, unexpected.
Thank you guys, this is great information, appreciate your presentation. I've been asked, and I know it's 8 o'clock, so I'm going to make this brief, but we want to have a little fun with it too. A couple weeks ago, I came up in this group, and among some others, the folks I work with, we want to recognize a very special person in our community, and I'm going to embarrass Emily right now and let you know that she just happens to be an Elvis fan. I don't know if you know that. But with that in mind, I'm going to share a couple of Elvis hits. I'm not going to sing them. I'll try to refrain from that. Emily, I'm going to share those hits and also connect with them how Emily has, through her selfless work in Helena, her incredible burning love, if you will, for her community. So here we go. Jailhouse Rock. Did you know that Emily continues to work with the families experiencing challenges through her work at Child Protective Services? She also serves on the board at Shogair, so a lot of good work there. Don't be cruel. Don't be cruel. All right. Anyway, Emily embodies this one. She certainly has the opinion on any given subject, but she interacts in ways that are always kind and thoughtful. Let's see. We'll go to the big ones here. All Shook Up. Emily is not afraid to shake things up. She is a change maker, but she also knows how to work within the system. In fact, working with Emily usually means there's a whole lot of shaking going on. Okay, so there we go. Blue suede shoes. Emily is very frugal, if you didn't know that. In fact, she probably has, she has, she has costumes, she probably has a pair of blue suede shoes somewhere. But she is very cost conscious, and especially when it comes to office expenditures. At the United Way, we make the most of every dollar donated. So, let's see. This was supposed to be Mulaney's, but I can't help falling in love with you. Her co-workers really like her. She has former co-workers everywhere. In fact, every time we go to a meeting, she says, I used to work with that person. In fact, I hired the mayor once, and you know, she has a lot of. She's been around a long time. And anyway, let's see, the green grass at home. Helena is her home. A lifetime of commitment to this community. I think she grew up in Missoula, but has been here a really long time. And I'll close with this one, Heartbreak Hotel. Okay, most of you know we had a little project going, and. That was a tough one to say goodbye to the Helena Inn project, or at least step away from it. But I want you to know that at the United Way and with Emily's leadership, we continue to work toward finding solutions to our affordable housing project. And Emily has certainly taken the lead on that. So, Elvis has a lot more hits, and Emily has a lot more qualities worth noting. But in the interest of time, we will close with this quote from Elvis. He once said, do something worth remembering. And as long as Emily is around, she'll be unforgettable, and her work will definitely be remembered. So, Emily, thanks for all you do for the community. Thank you, friends. And by the way, you all have donated some gifts. Mulaney, we've got a spa card, I think a dinner out, and some other things. So, please congratulate Emily this morning as you leave, and thank you. Let's give it up for Emily. Thank you all.